Hi Matt, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good. Getting used to the move over to Monroe. It's good though so far. Much better than like the last few weeks, obviously. I mean, most acute jobs are still there, but a lot less than they've been.
Okay, so tell me some post-acute withdrawals of your stuff.
Just random, not like it's not as bad as mental as it's been in the past, but it's from the taper, just random hot cold more than anything. Still appetite, not the greatest, but it's nothing it's nothing like it was.
Yeah, I mean you're eating 3 times a day, right?
Like 2 times,
Two
but
times?
much better than it was. I mean, I didn't eat for the first 10, 11 days.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you went through a significant withdrawal.
Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Um, so just to still have kind of a lack of appetite.
It'll be there for a while. I know.
Well, I mean, how are you sleeping though?
Good. That's the one thing. Besides my roommates, I'll say at 62. But besides that, initially I didn't sleep 8 days. I think 7 days almost.
Yeah, I mean that's
I mean,
one of the
Yeah.
biggest withdrawal symptoms.
I mean, now I'm out by 10 o'clock usually, and I'm up at 6:37, so I'm getting good sleep and straight through usually.
Very good.
So I'm happy with that.
Any restlessness or anything like that?
No, surprisingly, I was very surprised not doing getting off of everything. Like not doing a taper. I did the 12-day taper, but I'm surprised that I haven't had like much anxiety. Honestly, restlessness, irritability. That aspect hasn't been there. It's just more or less been the physical things like from time to time, but not too bad.
So another couple things that your people usually have still going through is anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
How's your anxiety from a
The-
level 0 to 10? Put it on a scale.
It would randomly be like a 3 from time to time, but depression hasn't been too bad, honestly. I think that was more or less in the times of like when I was miserable still, but like coming out on the other side, it's more or less just been like situational for the anxiety aspect of it. But
So
it hasn't risen
give-
past like a 4 or a 5.
Give me an example of a situation that would increase your anxiety.
Like, say we're sitting around and like at the apartments and 3 of the 4 people are just like complaining about like how like I don't want to be here, like this sucks, da 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 da. Like it just like makes me anxious because like I think about okay, well I could, if they want to leave, like I could just leave, things of that sort.
So you decide that you don't want to feed into that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I don't let it get above like a 4 or 5 because I don't want to be around that. So it's kind of exert myself from the situation.
So the coping skill you use when you get anxious like that.
Just remove myself from the situation because that way I just don't dwell on it. Otherwise, that can consume you so bad.
Yeah, I mean,
misery loves company.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
negativity is
Mhm.
it spreads quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does. It spreads quickly. I mean, there's cases that I've seen in this facility that somebody becomes very negative, and all of a sudden there's
It's like
lots
it's a
of
cancer and a leech.
yeah, it's like
Just-
lots of people become
Yeah.
negative. You have to kind of just like
I'm here for me at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
yeah,
Like, I'm
you
not-
are here for you.
Yeah,
You're
like
right.
as selfish as it sounds in the beginning, I get it. It can be selfish, but like I'm not. I just don't want to tie into that shit and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
Yeah.
good that you don't feed into the negativity because you are a very positive person.
Yeah. I
Like
try.
just in general, talking
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, I try to be. It's because given the situation, it's like I didn't leave home to just leave again. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I left my everything I knew because I knew that there was the best opportunity and chance for me. So I just don't want to dwell into that and really dive into that because it's just like you said, it leeches on and it's just not a good situation.
And plus, you're showing your gratitude for being here.
Yeah,
I mean, for real, you
Yeah.
are because you was given an opportunity that other people don't have.
yeah, exactly. Like a lot of people that don't have the opportunity that I had, I feel terrible for them. So I want to make the most of it at the end of the day. Like
Yeah, I mean, because how many years did you have? 6.5?
I had 5 years and 10 months.
5
Oh,
years.
so like I was 11 months. So I was a month short of 6 years.
A month short of 6 years of being in recovery, and then situations happen,
Yeah.
which I mean, it does, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then you were back in your addiction.
And the thing is, it's not even like bad situations happen to me. It's just more the fact of like I just stopped doing I stopped doing the little things that got me to where I was because I took my own will back and I thought, oh, I did all this good stuff for myself, and I just exerted myself from program, from meetings, from church, faith-based activities, the things that I did every weekend, every week for those first 4 years, I white knuckled it for a year and 10 months because I thought I could do it. You know, I was 26 at the time, so I thought, you know, I was on top of the world. All these good things started happening, and self-sabotage is more or less, you know.
Yeah.
So, like,
So you started getting overconfident.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
beyond measure. Like, look at what I did. Look at what I did for myself. You know,
Stopped working the program.
it's almost like I took the gratitude away,
Yeah.
and I put it all in my ego, in my head. Like,
Yeah, you stopped working the program and started thinking that I can do this myself.
This is my program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's
Yeah.
to be fair.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately,
Yeah.
this is what
And-
happens.
And transparently, you know, like getting sober at 20, I never went to a bar to go celebrate 21st birthday, you know, and like
Mhm.
I had like a core group of 4 or 5 guys that we were in detox together in halfway house together, and like those guys have 10 years sober now, and like I talk to them still occasionally, and like one of them said to me, Jeff, he was like, and I forgot about this. Me and him had a conversation originally when we first met each other. He was like, you think you have a reservation for later on in life since you're so young? Because the group of guys were all about 7 to 10 years older than me.
Mhm.
And like looking back at it in hindsight, like I think I probably did. You know, like getting sober at 20 years old, like I probably had that reservation that maybe one day when I'm successful enough, I'll be able to.
Could you be able to go back and have a beer? Or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that lasted about 3-4 days before I took it, and I ran with it.
Well, that's one thing about being 20 years old. That's against you when you're 20 years
Yeah.
old because
Yeah.
you have to look at life like I can never
Yes.
drink. I
Yeah,
can never
yeah.
do other things.
Yeah.
Ever.
Like my sponsor, he had 51 years sober, and initially I found that like intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And like, but in the first 3.5 years working with him, I was like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. But then like, it kind of set in on me like, this is a forever thing. I don't want to like, I don't want to think that way. And like, that's kind of how that reservation started dwelling again on that. I think, you know, and having the opportunity of like moving back home, and then after a year and a half of white knuckling it, taking customers out to lunches and to dinners, seeing them drink all the time. Then one of the times asking, aren't you gonna have a drink with me? And like, yeah.
So those old addictive behaviors that you had started in 4 years into your recovery.
I mean, even still down in Florida, my addictive behaviors started with gambling. Started going to, you know, places I shouldn't go. Sober but dry.
Yeah.
You know, like in the time in the middle of it, I didn't think of it that way because I was still sober. You know, but like looking back at it in hindsight, it was so transparent, written all over the walls that it was going to happen.
So today, what's your thinking process?
That, I mean, for me, it's more or less basics. Like, it's even like those little signs all over the walls at like AA meetings. It's like easy does it, like keep going. The simplest things that like you want to like bang your head against the wall because it's so obvious. That's what I didn't keep doing. And it's like, for me, I mean, book work every day, like talking to the sponsor every day, meeting once a week, you know, etc.
You have a sponsor here in town?
I just started,
Okay.
started this past week. So.
Very good. How much time has he got in?
6.5 years.
6.5
Very
years.
similar situation to what happened to me as well, honestly, in his past. So like, it has a 3.5-year-old daughter. My daughter's 3. Came from the West Coast. So, you know, California. I came from Florida. So it's just like different, you know,
Yeah.
similarities that I can relate.
Yeah, some similarities.
I am doing NA this time instead of AA. Just to, I mean, at the end of the day, 12 steps, 12 steps. I just.
And I know that NA goes a little bit quicker through the steps. No, it's the other opposite.
Yeah. See,
AA goes through them quick. NA goes.
And see, that's something I actually just talked about in group that I'm almost a little bit worried about.
Mhm.
But like, I'm excited for the depth of it in NA, but like, I'm a little bit nervous in the sense of like how the longevity of it. Because I know like it talks about like service work, you know, sponsoring other guys and everything, which I've done in the past, which went through quick, you know, and that's where I got the most meat out of it. But with the NA steps, it's much longer, so I'm hoping it doesn't last like too long. But at the end of the day, I know there's other ways of doing service, you know. But I mean, at the end of the day, I know AA works. I just found the liking in someone else in a different program so far. So I'm looking forward to it, though.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So was it like steps are like a month long? Well, usually like a month.
For AA, you can do like
I know the steps you go through them like pretty quick.
Yeah, like
within,
I finished
like,
my
6
steps.
months.
Yeah, I finished my steps in AA in like a little under 6 months.
Yeah.
And I know people that have, it's taken them 2 years to finish the steps in AA, you know? But I mean, I was very transparent with him that like, I'm willing to do as much depth of the work as possible, like as quickly as possible too. But I don't want to skip over things at the end of the day, you know?
You
Luckily,
want to be very thorough in your fourth
Yeah.
step.
yeah. And like the one thing that I do have a little bit in my favor is I kept my 4-step
Mhm.
from when I did them initially, the first 2 times in AA. So I'm able to look back at those and not have to fully restart from back in the day. I can kind of pick up from 25 and doing all the people I've harmed, you know, like where was my part and everything. So that's going to at least work in my benefit in the sense of being able to look at the past 5 years about, you know, 5.5 years about, you know, where everything was.
So,
But if things come up,
well, the thing I'm going to ask though is, since you did your last 4th step,
Mhm.
are you still truly forgiving yourself for the things that you've done
That's-
before that?
yeah, and that's something that
This is why I ask. This is the thing I ask clients, because they want to go on and just pick up from the last time they did the 4th step.
Yeah,
I just had this conversation with another client.
yeah. There's things I left off.
Yes,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
there's lots of things that people
For sure.
that they leave off. So I say again.
Secrets keep you safe.
So again, you need to be very thorough. Go back through, like you said, back through that, and then pick up the things that you left off, and make sure that those things
Yeah.
are added on there.
What I kind of plan on doing, like once I get to that aspect of it, so I mean, like for me, the first 1, 2, 3 steps, like they're pretty transparent in the sense of like I've done it. I know, like I have a really good relationship with my hire already, but like, you know, I'm gonna go through the process the way that he suggested, you know, however long it takes. But that being said, like I'm able to at least look at the past 4 steps I've done and like use them, and I'm still gonna rewrite them just
Yeah.
because, you know, writing them down will bring back memories that maybe I didn't remember. And there definitely are a few things that I did leave off, honestly, you know. I definitely did, because at the time I wasn't ready to, you know, discuss it. I don't know if it was, at the end of the day, it was just in my own self that I just wasn't willing and ready to
Well,
go
plus,
over those
plus you
things.
were under 25. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, there's things. Yeah, and like I said, like it does go back to the sense of like intimidation, the sense of like admitting to another man all these different things that like went on, happened. You know, like you don't want to talk about some of that stuff, and I wasn't ready to then. And I think, and it can be that things. It can be the littlest things that, for me at least, that like I overlook. Like we talked about last week, like fear of failure for me is like a big deal. You know, and like the other day, some guy said at the meeting, he was just like, if you can literally just be like 0.5% better than yesterday, you're not failing at the end of the day. And it's like, I thought about that, and like in the moment, 0.5, 1% better than yesterday doesn't sound like a lot, but like you accumulate that, that's 365% in a year. You know, so just like a little bit better than the day before.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that you've accomplished that since you've been here?
I think the first little bit,
Yeah.
it's rough, but you know,
But you
since
kind
I'm
of
coming
knew.
out of
But you kind of knew that was going to happen.
yeah.
There wasn't no kind of. You knew that.
Oh, I knew my situation. I knew the bed that I laid. You know,
Yeah.
it just had to deal with it. But yeah, I mean, coming out of that aspect of it on the other side, you know, after going through the actual detox aspect, like it can be the simplest things of writing, not just and Sean, one of the other therapists here, mentioned this, and like I've never thought about doing this before, and I've been doing this every day. It's like instead of writing your gratitude list, write 3 things you're grateful for, but on each thing you're grateful for, write 4 bullet points for why.
Mm-hmm.
So like the depth of your gratitude goes a lot much further than just at surface level, you know. So like things of that sort, going to the gym, eating cleaner, helping another person in general, just the littlest things can, like, especially when you're at a center, you know, it's like you are limited to certain things. So like, what are you going to do with your time, you know? So like if you're doing something productive, like it's helps.
It's kind of like somebody saying, "I want to change my behaviors." Okay, and what are you going to do to change your behavior?
Yeah.
What behaviors do you want to change?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't. You got to go more in depth than
Yeah.
just, "I want to change my behaviors," because
Yeah.
there's more to it than just
Yeah.
saying, "I want to change my
And
behaviors."
it can be, for me, it can be as literally as simple as opening up a door for someone. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the conscious, like, of your surroundings, and like I said earlier, like when people are negative and like wanting to, you know, like I'll put my 2 cents in the sense of like, what can you do to make it better than for yourself? But I'm not gonna sit in that situation, you know. But at the end of the day, like, still at least just trying to like put some positivity or help in it is like, at least I know that I did my part at the end of the day, you know.
So since how long you been here now?
A couple probably like 5 days short of a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So and since your detox, which lasted probably what 10 days altogether.
Yeah.
Good 8 to 10 days.
Yeah.
Since you've been out of your detox, what things do you think that you're improving?
My main thing, I think, like having some, because this is by far the most clear I've been since 4 years. I've gone to a detox program, but I had no reason or willingness to or wanting to quit. I knew that ahead of time. I think like having the clarity in the sense of like I've given myself much more grace than like I have in the past, in the sense of like forgiveness of like to myself, in the sense of like I was dwelling the first 4 or 5 days after the detox, like of all the stuff that I did, and that was like that's when I was in my own negative self, and I know that that's not the person that I am. Don't get me wrong, it still sucks looking back at the things I did.
It does.
But like I can truly accept and know that like that's not who I am, and that's not how I usually am and act. It was the drugs that corrupted my thinking and like overtook everything I did. So I think like my biggest thing is just like giving myself grace and like forgiveness of the things that like I did in the past over the past 4 years. I mean, I did more bad things probably in the past 4 years than I did the first 10 years of drinking and using, and I mean, it gets worse and worse. I've realized after each time, that's for sure. And
it only gets worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I look back at the past 4 years and I'm surprised I made it 4 years, to be honest with you. I mean, I heard this early on too. They said every relapse, it's harder and harder to come back. And like physically, I'll never forget they asked me the first couple of days, like, do you want to make a phone call to your family? I was like, no, I don't. I don't feel like it. I can't do it yet. And like, I remember when
yeah, because I asked you a couple of times.
Yeah.
You told me no.
I don't want to yet. I just wasn't ready to even hear their voices, I don't think.
Yeah.
Honestly, because like, I knew everything I put them through in the turmoil. But like, I remember, I think it was the 6th day, maybe 7th day almost, and that like I talked to my mom. I was just like, I like teared up saying, I was like, I really don't think like after this run, like I don't think I'll make it to another detox, like even if I'm given the opportunity. And like that was like a good reality, like huge reality check, in the sense that like I've been given an opportunity that most people aren't if they don't have the resources. And given that I know majority of the people that I'm friends with back home, they have no opportunity to get better, So I mean, and honestly, seeing, I thought I was like 30 days, this sucks, like no way, but like there's been quite a few people here, 60, 90 days, 100 days, that like have helped me along the way, in the sense of like knowing that like if they can get there, I can get past 30 days, if they can get to 90, I can get to 60, like, so that's just been encouraging in the sense of.
And also something should encourage you is that you've done it before.
Yeah, I know it's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah, it was just it's been bittersweet, more than anything. Since like the speaking with the guys that I got to work with, they have 10 years, but like at the end of the day, like I know my almost 6 years didn't. It's not like my knowledge of like the program and everything like went away. It's just that it's just a restart at the end of the day, and it's accumulating time rather than consistent time. But like, and I think when I was in the midst of my addiction in those 4 years, like that's one thing that kept me out there the whole time, is like I didn't want to bite my pride, my ego, and like reach out to them and tell them. It took them
because of that guilt and shame.
Yeah, like I felt like I failed them, not just like I failed. Yeah. Once again, like it resorts back to the fear of failure, like and like knowing like my core group of guys are all doing great and thriving and whatnot. I'm the one that did this, so I not only did I fail myself, I failed them, and it's it was.
But once you reached out,
Oh, it was
What
the best.
happened?
It was the best feeling.
What
Like,
happened
I
though?
got here,
yes,
and now I'm where I'm at now.
Yes.
You know, and like, and that's the, and like, I knew in the back of my mind, like the situation, like if I did reach out, it would be a couple phone calls and I could get some help. But it's like, it's just my pride, like, and my fear of ever, like, it's fear of like admitting, you know, of everything that like kept me going, and just that vicious cycle. But I mean, like you said, like as soon as I reached out, I was able to get the opportunity, and I mean, I'm here today.
so we talked about what you've improved on. What do you still need to improve on? And then that list probably a little bit long.
Yeah, I mean, that could go on quite some time, but I mean, I think, you know, there's things like, I'm on the period, you know, I have five, 6 more days where I'm able to start going out and doing things and whatnot. So I'm gonna kind of aim it towards that, if that's okay. But like one thing that like, they say like, do like 90 and 90, etc. like that, but like, for me, like I would prefer to go to a couple meetings a day. You know, like that's like the consistency and like structure. For me, it's like I need to get better at like my routine. I think is the biggest thing, because like routine creates discipline, and for me, I had no self-discipline. You know, in the past 4 years or so, and having no discipline for that long, that creates a lot of problems.
Yeah.
A lot of problems. It can be as simple as like eating cleaner. It can be as simple as like getting some exercise. It can be as simple as making sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in step work or being a sponsor, you know, and like just pushing things off because I feel like I don't want to, you know, and I'm notorious for that. I'm notorious for putting things aside. And
Well, I mean, you're a recovering addict, and yes, unfortunately, we like to procrastinate.
yeah, like none other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other big thing is that like I was grateful enough to initially, like when I got in recovery, that I had a really like interesting spiritual awakening situation. And like I think one thing I'm thinking of right now is like I'm almost waiting for that to happen so I can get myself back into that mindset. But like those can be like brought into your life in any situation if you have the right perspective. And like for me, like looking at it, like there are little things that have happened that I can look at. It's, you know, the same idea. It's just like if I'm willing to look at it from a gratitude perspective, to know that like things happen for a reason, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so the one thing that I want to ask you also is, what was the different mindset from you in the last 4 years going to detox, and leaving and going back out there and using, to this mindset?
I think at the time I was just like in straight denial that like I felt like I mean I didn't want to do it for me at all. I did it just to get my family off my back, my ex-fiance off my back. Shoot, how initially it all came about is we both stopped using and drinking, yet I was using behind her back, she was drinking behind my back, and she comes up a couple days before Christmas saying, I need to go to detox. Well, so the situation happened that like, whatever, and she said, I need to go to detox. And then I used that as to say, okay, maybe I should too, but really I was just doing it to get her off my back. I go for 7 days, had no inkling to stop using whatsoever. I just did it just because I would make them think I was clean.
Yeah.
Then I got home and got high. Next detox, go to Ohio, just because terrible family situation, something happened, and I wanted them to have peace of mind. Had no reason want to get sober again whatsoever, just to help them. Day I got home, started getting high, they thought I was sober. You know, so it was more or less people pleasing to which is another thing that I'm.
Yeah, I mean, usually when you have the fear of failure,
you have
people like to have the people pleasing tendencies too.
Yeah. So I mean, and each time I would say I'm gonna go do it for my daughter, etc., etc. You know.
Sorry about
No,
that.
you're good. No worries.
Let me turn this off.
You're good. But I think like having like the acceptance of like finally reaching out to, like, I called my old sponsor, let him know like you were right. that's right before I came here. I actually called my old sponsor, and he told me, he was like, if you stop doing these things, like if you put anything before your recovery is not going to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought it at the time, but fast forward a couple of years, when I thought I had it, I didn't buy it. And that was like a real humbling experience. And then 2 days later is when I called Rudy, a close friend, and said, this is what's happening. And like at that moment, like the last few weeks of me getting high, like I was so just done and miserable that like I didn't really care what had happened or like what would happen. But like,
What brought you to the point that you were done?
so I had like a certain situation actually happened that like made me like realize that like I probably am gonna die if like I don't stop. Is my usual person I got everything from wasn't answering down like in the Chicago area. So I went up to Milwaukee not knowing where to get anything from, and I randomly saw someone in a Wendy's parking lot, met him there and grabbed something. I never wear a seatbelt ever. I was in a DUI accident, and the doctor literally said, like, if you were wearing a seatbelt, it probably would have hurt you more than anything, because I was so out of it that my body went with
Your
everything.
body was more than broken.
Yep. And for some ungodly reason, I had a seatbelt on in my car. My foot was on the brake. While I pulled and I immediately fell out. My head was over the seatbelt, and I woke up, threw up all over my lap, and I was driven into a garbage can. And like the seatbelt aspect held me from throwing up, like falling back and throwing up myself and damn near dying. As soon as I drove home 20 minutes down, my daughter was taking a nap. I walk in the house, and as soon as I take one step in the house, she starts screaming, crying from her nap, and I pick her up. She said, I'm worried, I'm scared. It's like she knew something was wrong, but didn't know what. Like, she's young enough where she didn't know, but she knew something. And 10 minutes later is when like I talked to my mom, and I was just like, I know you guys know. It's obvious what I'm doing. It's written all over the walls, but like I'm finally saying like, I don't want to do this for anybody else. Like I can't do this for anybody else. Like I'm done. Like I can't. I'm miserable and broken. Like at the end of the day. And 10 minutes later is when I made the phone call, and literally like as soon as he said it's possible, I was like, when is as soon as I can come? He's like, whenever. 30 minutes. I took 20 minutes only to pack it back because I wanted to get here so fast. I mean, literally, I asked him, I was like, can I leave now? He said, if you can get packed up. And I was in the car within 30 minutes on the way.
So how many high-risk situations did you put yourself in let's say, the past year?
How many what?
High-risk situations.
High risk?
Yeah, because
Oh,
that one was.
yeah. I mean,
You could have
I had
hurt yourself, killed yourself,
I've had 13.
somebody else
Yeah, I've had 13 overdoses in 4 years.
in 4 years.
So I mean, those alone, obviously, are very. You would think any normal human being, would look at the first one and be like, "Hey, I should probably do something."
Well,
But
that's the thing, is that we're not normal.
no, not at all. Not at all.
We are not normal, because in my addiction, if somebody overdosed or passed away, my brain always thought, I need to have that.
Yeah, and the for me, like the sick like mindset was just the fact of like, if I saw someone like almost like that, I'd almost be like, I want to try that because it's more potent.
Yeah.
Like I'm sick of just getting well. I want to get high again. And like that's how I would look at it. But then somehow, luckily, like either someone would be there, someone wouldn't be there, but someone would walk up. And I mean, there's plenty of situations in regards to the overdose aspect of it, but I mean, not even just focusing on that, but like looking at the things I did, like stealing, pawning everything, in general, like the bridges that have been burnt because of that are just.
And that's due to the lack of dopamine.
Oh yeah.
That's our dopamine makes us do crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
When our dopamine is depleted,
Yeah.
that's our dopamine is telling us to do these things.
It's like fight or flight.
We have to survive.
Yeah. I mean, and that's all I did. I mean, that's the only way I knew. It's all I knew was like how to get by, how to survive, just to feel well, to not be sick, do whatever at any means necessary.
Yeah.
And it's just a vicious cycle. That
And then
continues.
that's the biggest reason why we do those impulsive decisions, like stealing from people.
Yeah. The people you love the most
Yes.
too. That you love the
Yes.
most, yet you do the worst things too.
Yeah.
That's Like, I mean, I'll never forget, like, this one guy said in the meeting, he was like, I got to the point where I would sell my mother, you know, and it's just like, it sucked because it sucked hearing that because I could relate to it so much. Like, I would do anything to be, like, just to get the next thing, you know.
And then you could look at it this way too. I've heard individuals say that there's nothing that more important than my kids.
Yeah.
That's false.
Yeah.
Because if that was true,
Yeah.
your kids would come first.
I mean, I was getting high in the bathroom of the delivery room.
And the drugs, you would take the drugs out of the equation. If that's true, doesn't matter. But it's not saying that the fact we don't love our children,
Right.
but when we're in our addiction,
That's all that matters.
it's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's our morals and values just go straight out the window.
Well, like,
I mean, even though that we've accumulated those morals and values that our mother and father has instilled in us,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
they're just back here somewhere.
Not wanting to come out.
Yeah, not wanting to come out because our addiction is not letting them.
Right.
So when we start getting clean and getting some time behind our belt, those moral values just start coming right back.
Yeah.
This is stuff that I don't allow in my life. This is stuff that I allow in my life.
And like the thing that like I've been trying to do too while I'm here is that like especially now like starting to work the steps again, like being able to get back involved is that like I've been like thinking like about that mindset that I was in while getting high and like the willingness to do anything to get high. How can I transfer that into the willingness to do anything to stay sober? You know what I'm saying? And like that's helped me a lot in the sense of like it's not that I can't keep the same mindset, but I have to be able to like be very careful and tread that line in the sense of like using that like motivation in a positive sense to be able to maintain sobriety rather than in the negative light. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So when you speak about the willingness in a more positive way, how do you do that now? The willingness in a more positive way.
I mean, I think like the biggest thing for me is like they say like, you know, they always talk about like a daily reprieve, you know, and like for me, like mine is just the acceptance aspect of like I'm where I'm at right now and like that's okay, you know, and like being willing to just do whatever I need to do to get through that initial day is like it's a big deal at the end of the day because 3-4 weeks ago like that would have never even been a glimpse of hope or like a possibility. So I mean just the and that willingness kind of goes hand in hand with just like doing the next right thing with helping people, you know, like I keep on resorting back to this, I don't know why, but like even people talking about like the negativeness, like helping that, like, you know, just like trying to drop a little bit of positivity.
Being more encouraging.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, we're all here, we all go through the emotions, I get it. But like, if you stay in that mindset, you're not going to be able to grow out of it. You know, like there's no room for growth if you are just stuck in that frame of mind. And that's just like, that's one of the main things, honestly, that I've been doing. But I mean, I don't know.
So that's one thing that I just tell a lot of clients that if you want to stay in that box, you can.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to get out of that box if you want to grow.
Yeah.
I mean, your comfort zone is that box.
Yeah. And we do what we're comfortable with.
It's time to get uncomfortable and grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
By learning how to cope with stuff
that
we don't want to cope with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you. I had to break out of my box.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had to shatter that box.
If you're comfortable, you're doing something wrong at the end of the day. Like, it's,
exactly.
You're, especially this fresh, like, if you're comfortable, I mean, if someone's comfortable right now at my days clean, like, they explain to me how, if it's a good way, you know, but like, for me, like, I'm uncomfortable all the damn time. But like, I know, having gone through things in the past, like, I know that that's a good thing, though, you know, like, but some people don't look at that as a good thing.
Well, I mean, in some people's comfort zone is continuing to isolate.
Yeah.
Which
Sitting
isolation is not good for your recovery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You need to start building connections again. Start being able to have good communication skills with other individuals, because that's a natural thing for us. We have to have connections with others.
Yeah.
So isolating in your room is staying in your comfort zone, getting out of your comfort zone is getting out of your room, getting out and talking to people, talk about recovery, talk about family, whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's getting you prepared to go
For the
back
real world.
home to the real world
Yeah.
to start building connections there.
Yeah. And like given the fact that like I had, you know, like I've discussed with them staying in Kokomo for a little while, like that's why I said like getting out and going to other meetings like multiple times a day is like I have to replicate and build a new network up here that like I don't know or have up here. You know?
Yeah. I don't think we're going to get to your homework today.
That's okay.
I mean, because we've
Yeah.
had a good conversation.
For sure.
I think that I will probably get with you probably Friday for
Okay.
a few
That's
more
fine.
minutes and
Yeah.
we'll go over your homework.
That works with me.
Yeah, because I want to go over with it because I know you spent some time on this.
Yeah.
And I think we've already talked a lot about them.
Yeah, a lot of
these already, but
we have.
I still want to go over it with you and make sure that you're seeing the negative consequences.
Yeah.
That's there. Your continued lifestyle that you was in,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you are being transparent and honest because you have been so far. And,
Yeah.
but I appreciate you coming in here and
Yeah.
doing this session with me.
Yeah, for sure.
And I should have told you beforehand. You know, you had a sign this for me,
Yeah.
giving me acknowledging that I was going to use this
Yeah.
recorded session for school.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you, Matt.
absolutely. Thanks, man.